about last weekend and then move on to this week's ball game. So, again, certainly just pleased to be 3-0 right now, and that being said, still have a lot of room for improvement, a lot of room for growth, and that's something we're trying to work on right now. Have been working on. Saturday, it started slowly. Every game's a little bit different, certainly, and started slowly. Part of that's us, part of that give credit to Western Michigan. They really did a great job and took advantage of some areas that we were struggled in a little bit. So all in all, though, just pleased the way the team settled in and played good complementary team football the rest of the way, and saw some good execution, certainly in the run game, mostly on offense. Defensively, once we got through our bumps, really settled down and got off the field, did a good job getting off the field. And special teams missed a field goal. It wasn't a chip shot, but nonetheless something you hope you're a little bit more consistent on. But then came back and got the big punt block and did a good job in the return game. It was good to see that. Cooper did a nice job, and also the guys blocking for him did a good job there too. So happy for that, and happy for Ontario getting his first piece of success, if you will, as a Hawkeye. So that was a good moment, certainly. And again, just good to see the progress. I think the players have been working hard, and we're getting good leadership, so happy about that. And obviously there's a lot more opportunity for growth right now with our football team, and we're going to need that moving into Big Ten play. So that's it's kind of where we're at right now. A couple of things of unfortunate news to touch on. Certainly not happy about losing Luke Lachey. I feel most badly for him, obviously. He's the person most affected, and it's just an unfortunate development, but he'll be fine here in time. But it's a significant injury, so he's going to be out for quite a while here. And then, on the more week-to-week type basis, both Jazz and Caleb won't be available this week, so we'll evaluate that with each week as we go forward, but they're both going to be out Saturday, so we'll go with the guys that we finished up with the other day. And that is a positive. Certainly the tight ends as a group, I think, stepped up and did a good job. Eric obviously is a quality player, and Ostrang is a good young player coming up the ladder. Stylianos, talked about him being a much improved player in the spring in camp and did a good job in there too. And then John Piscuzzi jumped in and helped us out. And then Kamari and TJ on the offensive in the backfield did a good job. So, we'll just go with the guys that we got like you always do, and next man in, opportunity for them. Again, just wish Luke the best in terms of his recovery coming back. So looking forward now, we're playing, obviously, a good football team. I think everybody expected Penn State to be an outstanding team, and after 3 games, that's certainly what it looks like watching them on film, watching them perform. So they're, really good, 3-0 and 1-0 in the Big Ten right now. Captains are the same group plus 1. So we've got Joe Evans and Jay Higgins on defense, Luke and Cade McNamara on offense, and then next man in will be Logan Lee. So Logan will take Luke's place out there for the coin toss. And Logan's done a great job, senior, and just a tremendous player, tremendous leader. And like I said, as expected, Penn State's a really good football team. Can't remember a year where they weren't talented, and this is certainly the case with this team, and they're well coached on top of it. They've done a great job recruiting there. They take a lot of pride in that, and then they do a great job coaching on top of it, all 3 phases. So offensively, that's pretty much what it has looked like for quite some time, which has been pretty impressive. And then they've got a defensive coordinator, special teams coordinator, that in their second years and with the program. They had great success last year, being Rose Bowl champions, and had a tremendous year, and you can see a lot of that carry over moving forward. So they've lost some really good players. Think about the quarterback graduating. Think about Joey Porter in the back end. Yet, as kind of customary at Penn State, the next guys up do a great job, and that's really what we've seen on film. So offensively, they run the ball, throw the ball, do both of them very well. Basically 2 personnel groups, but either way, they run it effectively, they throw it effectively. If you got good players out wide, 2 good early tight ends and 2 good backs. The young quarterback's done a great job running the thing for him, and looks very composed back there. And their offensive line's big, strong, and very, very experienced, very veteran. So they're good there. Defensively, same thing, really successful there. I've been playing great defense. They give up 11 points a game. Really athletic guys at every position, the line up front, the linebackers, and the secondary. Got a lot of really good players, and they're very, very active and very dangerous just because of their athleticism. And again, aggressive in their approach and for good reason. And then with the kick game, like you'd expect, they're pretty good in all phases, and that's no big surprise. So moving forward, it's our first Big Ten game. Certainly, it's a challenge going on the road. It's about as good as it gets in college football to play at State College. It's a great football environment, and then throwing a weight out on top of it. We've been through a couple of those now, and just in general terms, if you love college football, it's just one of the great venues and great experiences, great opportunities from that standpoint. But if you're the opponent, obviously it adds to the degree of difficulty. The biggest one's just the opponents that you got to play, but then secondly, the environment's it's a tough one for everybody to navigate. So be a great challenge for our football team. Going to need a great week, and I think we're off to a good start, but it's going to take just a great effort throughout the entire week for us to have a chance in this football game. But it's a challenge our guys are looking forward to, and we'll keep preparing for that. Kid captain-wise, just mentioned, we got Gabby Ford as our kid captain. She's a 17-year-old junior at Fairfield High School, and discovered a brain tumor about 7 years ago, so she's had reoccurring treatment for that. It's doing really well. And then one little tidbit in her sidecar is that she was one of the first patients that actually moved from the original hospital into the new Stead Children's Family Hospital. So a little trivia there, but happy to have her be the kid captain this week, and we'll certainly have her in our thoughts this weekend when we're out there playing. I'll throw it out for questions.
Kirk, just to clarify, Luke Lachey said he's out for a while. Would you consider a season ending?
Most likely, yeah. Yeah, most likely. So just unfortunate. But he's going to be fine, but it's just tough development.
For Jazz Patterson, what specifically is the injury strength?
It's lower leg. Yeah, both run legs. So hopefully sooner than later. I don't know. We'll see. He's on crutches right now, so he will eventually.
I think what the players said last year, tough time for Luke. Obviously, he's having surgery this week.
It should be probably over right now, or at least done. It's a tough deal, and I've said it before, and it's a little bit like Noah's situation when you deal with the injuries or things that take a player off the field. It's just tough, because there's a human aspect to this too, and we all lose sight of that. I know, because especially in football, guys got helmets on. They're like gladiators out there in the field, but these guys are college kids, and they got feelings. And then when it pertains to any athlete in the Big Ten or anywhere across the country, they invest so much, and it's not who they are, but it's such a big part of what they do, and they spend so much time working for it. And I don't want to say have that robbed, but to miss out on something that they look forward to, it's really tough.
It was such a gruesome-looking injury. Was it a clean break? Is that why?
Yeah, I mean, if there's such a good thing as a good situation and a bad one, that's what we had here. So that's the good news. And it's routine if it's somebody else's. I hate that word when you talk about medicine or medical procedures, but. There's nothing out of the ordinary there, and you think about a guy like Sheriff or Drake Kulik, kind of had something similar. So, he should be fine. Hasn't slowed Sheriff down at all, and nor Drake. Once they came back, but it's tough in the meantime.
Kirk, I want to ask you about the passing game with Cade. Have you seen that develop through the first 3 weeks, and do you feel like it's moving in the right direction?
Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, it's just kind of talking about injuries. When guys can't practice or they can't practice full speed, it impacts everything. And that's players at all level. NFL guys are no different. If they're not on the field getting the work they need to get, at some point it catches up. So I think that's been the biggest deterrent, and that all took place back in August, and that's just one of those. It was a random injury, but it was real, and had to deal with it. And it's the good news, it's gotten better week to week, and he's been able to do more in practice. So there's more to it than just throwing the ball, but you also got to, call the plays, be involved in the cadence, all those kinds of things. So, I think it's like a lot of things. It's just a matter of us just keep chipping away here and feel really good about the people involved right now. So it's just a matter of trying to improve our execution week to week. Hopefully with each week of practice, we'll see better execution out there. And this is going to be a tough test here because you're going into a tough environment against a team that's really athletic and very opportunistic on defense. So it's going to be another step up. But Good news is he's a veteran player who's done it, and at least he's got that to draw upon. But you still need to be, in the here and now too in terms of practice.
Urban Meyer said that whiteout was worth a 10-point advantage. I was just curious, 2009, you look up and you see 100,000 white T-shirts. What do you remember about that environment?
Yeah, I think it's closer to 110, and that 10-point became 17 points real fast in 09. We always talk about getting off to a good start, especially on the road, just to try to take the crowd out of it. We did just the exact opposite of that in 09, and next thing you know, it's 17-0. We're looking up, the place is going crazy. But the rest of the story there is it's a 60-minute game, and when you're playing a team as talented as these guys are and as good as they are, well coached as they are, there's going to be some lows too. Hopefully we create some highs, but there's going to be some lows, and you just got to keep playing. And, if you're fortunate, you can make it a 60-minute game. That's the whole idea. But easier said than done because, these guys really haven't played in a close game yet. And, so that first things first is make it close. And you got to try to figure out how to make it go in the fourth quarter. But, it's to play in a raucous environment like that, it's good to be the home team for sure.
Obviously, you can't replace a guy like Luke Lachey, but what kind of expectations do you have for Steven Stilianos, Addison Ostrenga? What have you seen from them?
Yeah, no different than a week ago or, 3 weeks ago or, a couple of years ago, just basically for everybody. Just want everybody to do their best and keep working and, play as well as they can play. And the good news is, Addie's a guy that we threw in there last year, pretty much out of need and really responded well. He's been pretty consistent that way, and I thought he did a good job Saturday. He'll keep getting better the more he plays. Steve's a guy that I mentioned in the spring who's starting to emerge. I'm not saying it's a Zach Van Valkenburg story, but very similar. Year two, coming from a smaller skier, year two, has a lot more confidence now and a lot more competency. So I thought he did a good job Saturday, and we'll use him more now just by pure numbers. And like I said, Piscuzzi jumped in there and did a good job too. So, we like to have 4 guys at least that we can put in the game. And, Eric's done a good job, and, he's a veteran guy too. So the group will be fine. We're better with Luke. That's all. It's obvious on a couple levels, just playing wise, but also leadership.
Have you seen Jamar Harris when he was out for as long as he was? How did he stay engaged?
Yeah, it's kind of the same discussion. He was good that way, and he's been able to practice this year. But the biggest thing is that game time you miss, and both he and Cade could be in the same discussion. And that these guys didn't play last year at all, and so he missed practice time. And then in Cade's case, he's missed practice time this year because of an injury. Jamari's because of the suspension, and you can't substitute that either. So the practice time's important, and then game time's important. Both these guys are coming off a long layoff, and the good news is I think they're just they'll climb, and they'll climb faster than the guy that's never played. That's the other good part about it because they both have experience. So Jamar's had a good week so far this week, and his attitude's great, and I'm confident he'll play well Saturday.
Kirk, when you look back at 09 specifically, to go down 10-0 in 2 drives, and then how did you guys A, keep your composure, and then B, what was the impact of Claiborne's block punt, not only in that game, but the big picture?
Yeah, you just you have no choice. You have to try to keep your composure. It's easier said than done because it's easy to buckle in a situation like that. But that was a good football team that we had, and those guys hung tough. And you find a way. You make a couple plays. You never know how it's going to come, where it's going to come from. And Claiborne's thing was it was one guy's outstanding effort basically because it wasn't a punt block that called, but he was just doing his job. We have one guy pressing the punter in case make sure the guy gets the ball out, and he beat his guy that was supposed to be blocking him, and then it was a great sound. I'll never forget that sound. It's a really good sound or a really bad sound depending on what sideline you're on, and then the ball comes right up to his bread basket, and he took it and ran. And that he's a special player and a special person, and it's funny how that works sometimes too. Guys like that just spark a team, and then after that we had a little different demeanor the rest of the way.
Being from Pennsylvania, does it mean anything more to you to walk into that stadium, into that whiteout, and memories of this rivalry?
Yeah, I carry a chip on my shoulder because they didn't recruit me. And I always joke about that. The obvious reason was they were trying to win. They were trying to win then, trying to win now. And they had to recruit guys that ran 5 flat 40s at linebacker that weighed 200 pounds. So I've forgiven them. It's 50 years later. I'm over that, I think. But, I've always had great respect for the program. It's always, represented what football should be like. And they've been awfully good. I'll go back, throw trivia at you, how old I am. But it's either 68 or 69. They were playing Kansas, so it was old. They were playing Kansas in the Orange Bowl. And they stopped Penn State like 2 or 3 plays in a row down on the goal line, and then the refs figured out there were 12 guys on the field. So they got penalized, and then they got another crack, and Penn State won the game. I want to say it was like 15-14. Then I can't remember the score. But I just remember that, how to go 3 plays without anybody detecting that. The officials didn't figure it out. But I remember that game vividly. I think Denny Onconce might have been like a linebacker. It was linebacker U, and Steve Schmier and Mike Reed might have been playing. I don't know. But I was a fan of theirs as a kid, obviously, because they were good and Pitt wasn't any good. So that's the way it is. But, yeah, I've gotten over that non-recruitment part.
Deontay Vines shared that his uncle passed away a week before he scored that touchdown this Saturday. Were you aware of that, and just thoughts on Deontay's performance, especially considering that?
Yeah, Deontay, I was aware of that. He shared that with us, and again, tying it in with the injury situation. Again, there's a real human aspect, and when you have a team of 100-plus players, you can imagine. It's just there's always, not always, but frequently something going on, family members. And again, we're talking about just impacting lives. And it's easy for us sometimes, I say just in general terms, to overlook that stuff or you forget those things because we're all focused on the games and performance and all that kind of stuff. And each and every one of these guys have personal lives, all from very diverse backgrounds and things going on. And so it's something that just seems to be, there's always something going on somewhere on the football team with someone's story. And how they choose to handle it is up to them. And, we respect that. And I think it was about a year ago this time, Lee Sean was back, I believe, for a funeral somewhere in that ballpark. So it's tough. And how the players try to deal with it, again, that's kind of personal, but we try to support them in each and every way. And as it pertains to Dante, he's just had a great career. I mean, he's had so much hardship, and it's just good to see him out there playing. I think he's having fun right now. He's able to practice every day, and it sounds pretty mundane and basic, but those are things he hasn't been able to do during his career without, having some brace on his wrist or whatever, So it's just good to see him, playing the way he wants to, and I think, envisioned himself when he came here a couple of years ago.
Seemingly wherever you're ranked, wherever Penn State is ranked, it's been a competitive matchup. I think 4 of the last 5 within one possession. What is it that you think leads to such competitive Iowa-Penn State games?
I don't know. I mean, it's one of those deals, and it's funny in conference play. Sometimes some teams match up that way and some don't. 16 games are a real good reminder what it can be like if we're not really ready to go. And that was really ugly, really fast, and that's just a reminder. I mean, they've got a really talented football team right now, but that's not totally new to them. If we're ranked or not ranked, where we're ranked, if you're past probably 8 or 10 right now, it really doesn't matter at this time of year. It'll be more significant in November. But if you're in the top 10, you're probably a top 10 team. Again, I don't think anybody's surprised Penn State's up there right now just because of the way they played last year, the way they finished. And, again, they lose a really good quarterback, but they have a guy that might be better right now. So, when you're in a position to do that kind of stuff, it's not a surprise they're ranked the way they are. And, but again, we're at the other end, and we need to be thinking about, the what ifs, and we better be ready to go here.
No,
I'm sorry, you were asking a question.
Yeah, what do you remember about recruiting Deontay?
Not an awful lot other than, so I've got a tie to Pennsylvania, I've got a tie to Connecticut too, and things have really changed up there. It's ironic right now, our 2 starting receivers are both from that state. It's got nothing to do with me going to college, I can promise you that. Ken O'Keefe recruited up there and knows the area. But my point there is that high school football has really changed quite a bit. The prep schools up there in Connecticut have done they're much different than they were 10 years ago or even probably 20 years ago, obviously. So, it was just one of those things where we matched up. He was very interested in us, and we were more than interested in him, and just ended up being a really good match. So we're glad to have him. He's a great young guy and a great family.
There's a bit of a sour taste in Penn State's mouth after the 2021 game. There was a little bit of controversy about accusations of flopping. Obviously, they lost their quarterback, lost the lead, lost the game. Are you expecting a little bit of extra juice out of them coming into a game like this?
Not really. I mean, I don't know how many of their players were here in 21, and I don't know how many of our guys were here either. And then probably like me, not many of them remember much about it other than it was a tough game. We had to make a big play to really get back into it. And, I think, once you play a game, it's usually pretty much goes to rest and you move on to the next season or whatever, next game. So, I don't think it's a big deal there.
Along those lines, was that something that you addressed at all with James Franklin afterward?
No, not at all. I mean, there's nothing to talk about other than congratulations or good luck. In fact, there's no good thing to say. I'll share this with you. After 20-some years of being a head coach, I don't know of a good thing to say afterwards other than good luck. I mean, what do you say? If you win or lose, what do you say? It's not much to say. So, good luck.
The long touchdown that Western Michigan had, what all did you see go wrong?
Yeah, obviously a breakdown in technique and communication. And one thing I do know is that, you can't play good defense if you don't tackle. And then the other thing, if you give up big plays, and they usually go together. But we didn't even have a chance to tackle on that one because of just, miscommunication. And that, all three phases, it's like electricity in the water. It's just a bad combination. Bad things really can happen fast if not everybody's on the same page. And it's really kind of what happened there. And then, some poor technique on top of it. So, we better not do that again, or it's, because we won't be able to survive, easy touchdowns like that.
And we're talking about it a lot, but you ran the ball pretty well that day with Robinson and Wager. Given what you did this last area, do you feel more confidence that you can establish some run up there? Obviously, you probably have to, right?
It would certainly be helpful. It's hard to find people that beat these guys because they haven't lost many games in the last, 50 years, 60 years. But, the teams that beat them last year did run the ball a little bit successfully, and that's always – but that's a truism in football. If you can run successfully, unless you just throw it every snap, and if you're throwing it every snap, at least if we're throwing it every snap, that's not going to be good. Some teams are designed that way, we're not. So, yeah, you got to try to find a way. But these guys are a really unique challenge. They're very aggressive, very athletic, and they make it tough on you.
So with Kamari and Terrell both fully in the game plan.
Oh yeah. I mean, all three of those guys are in there, and Max jumped in. It was great to see him get a touchdown. I mean, he's worked hard, and I don't want to say he's a crowd favorite, but he's a team favorite. I mean, the guys all pull for the guys that are doing scout team work and things like that. But yeah, those two young guys have been. This can be a little different arena though than for what they're used to, but. That's part, they're going to find out now. So here we go.
Kirk, when we've talked about the wide receivers, you've kind of mentioned staying patient, staying with the process. With Luke going down and his injury, does that kind of accelerate maybe the process a little bit with the wide receivers to get them more involved, or how are you kind of approaching it with Luke?
Yeah, no, Penn State will kind of dictate what happens there, but the receivers are doing a really good job. It's just I think they've really practiced well. I think they're doing well on the field, and. Yeah, I got total confidence in that group, and we have confidence in our tight ends. We still have a good group there. We'd be better with Luke, obviously, but we still have a good group. So we're not going to just change our whole approach by any stretch. So let's keep trying to figure out what's the best way to maybe give us a chance to move the ball against these guys.
Caleb Brown got his first touch this last weekend in that game against Western Michigan. Did you see his reaction? Just thoughts on getting him involved? And
it's good to get anybody involved, especially if it's the first time. It's just a positive, and it's not part of our game plan necessarily, but he is part of our game plan in that he's in our rotation and has done a really really good job. And said earlier, I think he's on the, if you will, he's still in a developmental mode a little bit, but. He works hard every day. He's got a good skill set, and it's just a matter of time. He'll get some production too.
Coach, with Penn State's ability to really kind of defend the pass wall, especially with the corners, I guess is there a greater emphasis on getting that run game going as early as possible?
It'd just be helpful in general if we can do that. We're better if we can play balanced, or at least have the threat of being balanced. And if they make you, especially this team, if they make you one-dimensional, they can get after the quarterback very aggressively. And they got a bunch of guys up front that can move, and they're really slippery and just crafty. So yeah, if it gets into one of those games, I don't think that's a good thing for us, and it'd be better if we could. But again, easier said than done.
When you look at the quarterback, just a true sophomore, what impresses you about his play?
Composure. He's very talented. He's a big guy. He can run and throw, and but he's really just seems very relaxed and in command and very composed back there. And I'll go back to he got extensive playing time in the opening game a year ago. It was the first game in the Big Ten last year against Purdue on that Thursday night. He played a lot and really did a good job. So it's not like he didn't look like he was out of place at all. And now, he's got the keys to the car, so he's doing a really good job with it.
You were mentioning Ontario, and we keep on hearing from players about his speed. What do you think is kind of the next steps for him in his development?
Same, just the key word you said, development. He just what we're asking him to do is totally different. Not unlike all the guys that are playing on the defensive line. We play a little bit differently than some people, and so there's a learned aspect to it, and I think that's what he's going through right now. And talked to him last week, just reminding him that Y.A. Black wasn't Y.A. Black 3 years ago. Same thing with Logan Lee. Go down the line, any of the guys, but especially those interior guys. There's a real art to playing in there. It's something you learn how to do. And I mentioned a guy like Y.A. Black, who's pretty big human being, and Brady Reef played very successfully in there, 260, 265. Carl Klug. So we've had all kinds of body types in there. Ontario is a really talented guy. He's a great young guy, good attitude, and he's a tough guy. He's just got to learn how to play, and then with that will come, playing faster and a little bit more effectiveness that way.
How much of the pass rush or lack thereof is kind of based more on the quick game that the other teams are throwing at you versus not having somebody who can really get to the quarterback?
Yeah, I think we have guys that can get there if they get a chance. It just, a lot of that stuff is a couple things. Sack numbers are important. Obviously, you'd rather have them than not have them, but they don't tell the whole story. Can you be disruptive? And then to your point on the quick game, sometimes getting your hands up is more disruptive than, trying to get pressure on a guy if the ball's coming out pretty fast. So, it's a little bit more, you got to move past the stats. I think it just really go off of what you're seeing on the tape. And, I think we got a couple guys that can be disruptive there. We just haven't had that opportunity really yet.
With the development Sebastian Castro's had since he's been here, was there a time like a conversation or a play or anything where you kind of saw things kind of click for him?
I think it was the bowl game last year is where that month, not just the game itself, but that month, things happen faster. And I don't mean this, how do I want to say this? But like our opponent right now, and there are a couple teams in our conference where their guys, they jump in and move faster. It's a quicker. They get there quicker to the. You never make it to the end line, but you know what I mean. They play a little bit more proficiently, a little quicker because they may come in a little bit more advanced than a lot of our guys. We're not getting a lot of 5-star guys that my sister Jewel could say, yeah, take that guy, that guy, that guy. So, there's a little bit of a learning curve or a growing curve, and whether it's physically or learning how to play, all those kinds of things factor in. But that's just the world we've lived in for quite some time. We're comfortable there. But I guess my point is, and I think it's true at every school, not just here, whether you're, a top 5 program or a bottom 5, everybody develops. If you're doing things right, you should be getting better with each week, every day. And, but it's all player driven, really. The player drives that. I mentioned Brady Reef, there's no way physically he would have played in there his first or second year, but then, they start gaining some traction, get a little stronger and all those kinds of things. That's a race every athlete runs. I'm sure in all sports, but I just know football a little bit better. So, I guess my point is you just never know when that light's going to turn on. And that's one thing I learned in the 80s. For certain guys, you just never know. As long as they're giving effort and they care and they got pride and all those kinds of things, you just keep coaching them and see what happens, and you never can't tell. Think about Ron Hallstrom, who didn't start a game for 4 years and ends up being a first-round draft pick, plays 14 years in the NFL, and never started a major college football game until his 5th year in college. So, you just never know if the guy's got the right attitude and he's got a skill set that will enable him or allow him to have success. So you just keep working with guys, and they got to keep working, though. That's the key point. Some guys do and some don't. And then other guys, it happens a lot sooner. Mentioned Ostranga, he played last year. So he showed enough where, okay, hey, we can probably put this guy in there and he'll do okay. And right now I'm glad we did, because at least he's got more experience than he would have if he had redshirted. But I guess what I'm saying, more of our guys are typically going to redshirt than maybe some other schools.
Coach, with Steven Stilianos, what have you seen from him, and how can he kind of help fill that void that Luke left?
Yeah, I guess the parallel, like I mentioned earlier, is Van Valkenburg. His first year here, played well enough to give AJ AJ, come on over and get a Gatorade and take a couple plays off here, and then we'll get you back out. So he was good enough to do that, but he really wasn't a factor in the game. And then his second year, he was definitely a factor. So I'm not saying it's exactly the same, but I think that evolution. Steve's a lot more comfortable now. He didn't look overly comfortable a year ago or confident, and now I think starting in the spring, we started to see that. Like he felt like, hey, I'm getting this a little bit, and I think I understand what they're asking me to do. And I thought he did a really nice job Saturday, and he'll get more snaps now as we move forward.
Speaking of that growth curve, Nick Jackson, obviously a different situation than a D2 guy, but he's having to do a lot of that growing on the field in that role. Are you seeing more of an accelerated growth from him as a veteran, and do you think that he is sort of ready for a task like Penn State?
We're going to find out Saturday. I think he is. He's a good football player. We talk about all these guys, these older guys, the transfer guys. His circumstance different in that you mentioned. He has played. He's played the last 2 years, played really well. Whole different defense. So he's learning that aspect, and then he wasn't out there this spring. Nor was Rusty Feth, nor was McNamara, basically, because, he was doing his throwing. Eric All really wasn't doing a lot in the spring. So, those gaps of time. But, the guys that have played, I think, are more capable of making it up faster than somebody, say, who hasn't played, So you got these different discussions. But, it's an interesting part about all this stuff. It's like a puzzle in some ways, and you just try to – but everything we thought Nick or hoped he was and thought he was in recruitment, that's who he is. He's extremely serious, extremely mature, ultra-focused, great team guy, and a really strong leader. So with every week, I think we'll see him keep playing better and better. And I'd say the same thing about Jay. Jay's been in the program, growing the other way. One of those guys that maybe wasn't heralded coming in here. I'm glad he's on our team, and we have been for several years just because the way he operates, So he'll have a good career here just because he really cares about it and works at it. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Kirk.
See you guys Saturday.
Assistant coach.